Sports Professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard, the serious show that doesn't take itself too seriously, and we're into it. A quarter of the NFL season is over. Can we believe that? About a third of the college football season, which is even more amazing. National Hockey League season starts this week. Major League Baseball's playoffs well into it. Home team seems to be getting an advantage, at least on the American League side. But that changes all the time. The wild cards continue to be a very exciting Spud Selig legacy no matter what. When you think about the NFL, though, we have a show that focuses somewhat on the NFL. Jeff Ma, the Director of Business Insights for Twitter, talking about the TriCast and what happens with the NFL. But it's kind of interesting because everybody is slamming the NFL this year for lower ratings. NBC down 13%, although 22 million people still is pretty stout on a regular basis watching a game Sunday nights. NBC, as we said, down, but ESPN down 17%. And CBS, their Thursday night package, down 15%. Most important, I think, probably on the doom and gloom side is that ESPN down 24% of those 18 to 34, those coveted, those prized millennials. We'll see what we're doing about that when we get into our interview segments. But when you look at the implications of this, it's a $5 billion annual contract compared to about $1.5 billion for baseball and about $2.5 billion for the NBA. And so the NFL Network and Twitter's TriCast going after the cord cutters, CBS and NBC splitting Thursdays. The bottom line is that if a team is worth $4 billion a year, which the Cowboys are, and much of it is the television money, whether you are in Green Bay or in Dallas, you better make darn sure your TV dollars are there. And I think the downside is a combination of three people: Donald Trump, Tom Brady, and Colin Kaepernick. Three different issues, but the Trump-Clinton debates and some of the outrageous antics around it might be one of the major reasons why people are tired of watching TV, or certainly on debate nights or other nights. Another explanation is the Twitter and TriCast, and we'll talk about that with Jeff Ma in a couple of minutes. And we'll shift to golf, women's golf, LPGA, high-tech golf, with the commissioner of the LPGA, Mike Wan. Interesting show. Beyond the Scoreboard. Be back in a couple of minutes.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number.
Call 877-499-MY-TV.
The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. So cancel the cable and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money.
Call 877-499-MY-TV.
Right now to sign up for packages starting as low as $24.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows, pause and rewind live TV, even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $24.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card.
Call 877-499-MY-TV. That's 877-499-MY-TV.
Cancel the cable, cut costs, and get more.
Call now, 877-499-MY-TV. That's 877-499-MY-TV.
Rebuild or replace transmission, $3,200. Anti-lock brake system, $1,000. Rebuild or replace engine, $2,400. Truth is, once your manufacturer's warranty runs out, it's all on you. Every last cent. Get protection for covered repairs with a vehicle service contract from Toco Warranty. Unlike other companies, with Toco, there's no down payment, and the monthly payments are really affordable. Not sure how long you're keeping your car? At Toco, you can pay as you go. Keep your hard-earned cash and call Toco Warranty right now at 800-222-2313 to save big money on covered auto repairs. Prices vary by vehicle, but for about the cost of a tank of gas per month, a Toco plan has your back on expensive covered car repairs. Monthly payments are very affordable. Get your free quote now. Call Toco at 800-222-2313. That's 800-222-2313. 800-222-2313. Cancellation fee may apply. Subject to eligibility. Not available in Missouri and Washington. Waiting period and deductible apply. Coverage provided and administered by Warrantech Corporation or its affiliates. Not affiliated with any manufacturer or dealership. Visit TocoWarranty.com for complete terms and conditions.
Hi, this is Tom Bamford for DIY Focus. Fall is the perfect time to build your dream deck. Planning includes choosing the right lumber. You need two kinds, structural and finish quality. Properly size the posts, beams, and joists in graded material treated for rot resistance. Deck boards and rails need to look good too. If, like me, you find real wood appealing, choose deck boards with vertical grain. They'll warp and twist less with age. And now a word from Lumber Liquidators.
Attention floor buyers, the 5th annual Fall Flooring Yard Sale is going on now at Lumber Liquidators. It's your chance to get hundreds of first-quality floors at unbelievable closeout prices while supplies last, like gorgeous pre-finished hardwood and bamboo from an incredible $129. Popular wood look tile and vinyl plank are almost half off. And get North American and European laminate packages from just 29 cents. Hurry in for more yard sale deals at your local store, plus special financing. Don't miss these limited time deals. Get to the Fall Flooring Yard Sale at Lumber Liquidators today.
Sports professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard, the serious show that doesn't take itself too seriously. We were talking about the TriCast, the favorite NFL Network Twitter joint venture today. Jeff Ma has some answers.
International. Twitter is global and continues to be global. Are borders, how less important are borders today than they were before? And, what's the tangible next step on that?
Twitter is certainly international. It's a platform that's the beauty of it. It's used very differently in certain locales and very differently in certain countries. And, the borders are probably based on language more than anything, but generally, it's the thing that's so great about Twitter. It is ubiquitous, and it is a place that you can go. And, if you're in another country, you can see what's going on in another country. So.
Yeah. A couple more on fantasy. Do you have any, we're in this whole regulatory area, and especially daily, and the whole issue of luck versus skill, the legal carve-out, everybody understands that. Now we're reinventing the perception of whether it's gambling or not. What's your take on it?
I think it's a form. It depends, I guess, how you define gambling. If you're talking about the legal definition of gambling, that's a very gray area. I don't want to have an argument with you about that.
Right.
In terms of comparing it to betting on sports, I think it's very similar. I think that the general thought is that if it's a game of skill, quote unquote, it's not gambling. If you and I play chess together and we wager $10, that's not gambling because it's clearly a game of skill. I think what the challenge is that a lot of situations are not that clear in terms of skill versus luck. And when you get into this gray area, which clearly daily fantasy sports is, in terms of it being a game or skill, it becomes a very subjective decision that a lawyer or a judge or whomever, attorney general, is making. And so when that situation comes about, it's hard to sort of draw the line of what's gambling and what's not. I would say let's just make it all legal and say gambling's legal and then call it a day. Or if it's really something that we believe should be illegal, let's make it all illegal and call it a day.
I think if I were to play chess against you for money, I would just give you my ATM card early and just call it off. I think
and your PIN number.
And the security code. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Decouching, that's a devil term. You talk to owners all over sports, and the whole issue is how do you engage the fan so he gets off his couch and goes to the stadium versus the NBC and rights fee guys saying we want him to watch TV a little more. You transcend that, and your answer, I guess, is you deal with both and you enrich the experience. What's your take on the dynamic? How do you make sure the fan maximizes his experience in all of the different ways in sports?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that generally sports is, one of the last sort of un-TiVoable or un-DVR.
Yeah.
It's live, and I think that it is a really important thing that the owners should be thinking about is the experience. Why would I go to a game when I can sit on my couch with, beautiful HD television and be comfortable? And you're right, that experience, certainly at Twitter, we think about the second screen experience, and we think about all the different things that you can do to interact with the game, whether it's, fantasy and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think that the actual game experience, the actual act of going, you've got to make it really easy parking's got to be easy, and getting there's got to be easy. The food's got to be good. The seats have got to be comfortable. You have to think about everything that is related to that game experience if you're an owner.
And then finally, I guess 5 years out, it's hard to do this, obviously, but give me some sense of where your industry is and where Twitter is in that space.
In 5 years, my industry, meaning the data industry?
Yeah, broadly defined.
I think I'd like to see data people be really a fixture at the C-level at companies, because I think they are oftentimes some of the smartest people in the company, and they're equipped to help the company make really good decisions. So having those data-type people at the C-suite or the C-level helping companies make decisions is really important. As far as Twitter goes, I mean, who knows? The sky's the limit. There's just awesome opportunities there. It's an amazing product and an amazing company.
I'll get my credit card out. Let's go play chess.
Okay,
thanks.
Sounds good.
Appreciate it.
Interesting perspective, and we'll change perspectives.
I'm the sports professor Rick Horrow with Beyond the Scoreboard. The Las Vegas NHL expansion team announced it would stop future sales for its inaugural season in 2017-18. Season ticket demand surpassed the expectations of many after the team reached 16,000 sold, waiting list established, and fans may still place deposits in the brand-new T-Mobile Arena right off the Strip. 17,500 seats set to host the expansion team going forward. The team's initial goal, 10,000 tickets, and 18 months later, well surpassed that marker. Owner Bill Foley, pleased with the city's demand for tickets thus far, and now turns his attention toward building a business, marketing, and sales staff for the team. Foley interviewed 6 candidates for the president of business operations position, and close to selecting that person. Gary Bettman, NHL commissioner, says that Las Vegas clearly on the right track to be very successful. Sports boom in the Sooner State convenes in Oklahoma City. This 3-hour symposium brings together representatives from sports and civic organizations. Oklahoma City and its surrounding regions now firmly entrenched big league city with world-class facilities and brand recognition. Mick Cornett, the mayor, Oklahoma City Thunder, the Dodgers minor league facility, the Boathouse Foundation, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State University, and others. Dan Tauris, Senior Managing Director, Guggenheim Partners, also attending. What's next? How does Oklahoma City build on its successes? The Ryder Cup back in U.S. hands for the first time since 2008, and a week that started with the world mourning Arnold Palmer ended with the American squad dousing each other with champagne. Over 360 million homes in 200 countries watched a dramatic Ryder Cup tournament, which resulted in over $100 million of economic impact for the Minneapolis region. On the course at Hazeltine, while I was struck with the competitive aggression of the fans, most of them were completely civil. I also noticed a distinctly millennial crowd. Young golf fans means the golf business should be in good stead for years to come. Additionally, most of the people I talked to, even the Europeans, believed that an American win, and one with Davis Love III, such a well-liked captain, bodes well for the future of the Ryder Cup. Jack Nicklaus is saying, and fond of saying, that golf is cyclical, and maybe the Ryder Cup is as well. The USOC has a chance to net nearly $300 million if Los Angeles is awarded the rights to host the 2024 Olympics. LA 2024 joined the USOC in a joint marketing agreement that would give the Olympic governing body at least $295 million from domestic marketing and sponsorship revenue. Under terms of the agreement, the total organizing committee locally would receive 80% of all net revenue, up to $2.16 billion, and 85% on revenue above $2.16 billion, with the USOC receiving the remaining revenue. LA 2024 and the USOC also agreed to create a joint nonprofit venture to manage domestic sponsorships, supplierships, and licensed merchandising for the Olympic Games. USOC, U.S. Olympic Trials, U.S. Olympic Torch Relay, and LA 2024. As it currently stands, Los Angeles competing against Paris and Budapest for the right to host the Games. Rome recently withdrew its bid before Phase 2 plans were due. Hall of Fame basketball player Julius Erving, known as Dr. J, sold the majority of his name rights and image to Authentic Brands Group. In exchange for giving ABG his name and image, Irving will get an upfront guarantee as well as royalties associated with the deal. Specific financial details and terms of the contract not yet been released, but ABG filed for the trademark to Dr. J, as well as Irving's signature in the U.S. and various countries. ABG President and CMO Nick Woodhouse said the company will use Irving's name and image to expand into luxury travel and corporate partnerships, as well as do licensing deals and merchandise his name. While the deal may be odd to some, ABG actually structured a similar deal this year with Shaquille O'Neal. The company also controls licensing rights to Muhammad Ali, Marilyn Monroe, and Elvis Presley. I'm the sports professor Rick Horrow, and that's Beyond the Scoreboard.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for prescription drugs? Well, we have great news. Now you can finally get prescription drugs at huge discounts from Canada Drug Center. That's right, the most popular drugs for cholesterol, high blood pressure, depression, diabetes, arthritis, and many more are now up to 75% off. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices when you can get brand name drugs at the lowest price? Call today and get up to 75% off all the popular brand name prescription drugs. Never pay high prices again. Get the most popular drugs at huge savings from our Canadian and international pharmacies and fulfillment centers. No insurance? No problem. Prices are so low you do not need benefits or insurance to get all your prescriptions fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting to take your call now. Order today and get free shipping. Just call 800-950-1180. Up to 75% off all the popular brand name prescription drugs and free shipping. Call 800-950-1180. That's 800-950-1180.
$100 million in jury verdicts and settlements for serious injury victims, medical malpractice victims, and surviving family members of wrongful death victims. Trial Lawyers for Justice. This is a firm that does not handle frivolous lawsuits. They go after insurance company money, and they're darn good at it. They don't sell their clients out or settle cheaply. Trial Lawyers for Justice, the firm that goes the distance for you, their client. They treat their clients the way you would want your own family members taken care of. Nicholas Rowley, Dominic Pachota, and the other trial lawyers in the firm at Trial Lawyers for Justice, dedicated to representing the people and their families in Iowa, Minnesota, South Dakota, Wisconsin, Illinois, California, Wyoming, and many other states. Trial Lawyers for Justice. $100 million in settlements and jury verdicts already in 2016. 888-811-0844. TL4J.com. Trial Lawyers for Justice.
Tired of calls, levies, and liens from the IRS or hiring others who don't get the job done? Call Wall & Associates and you'll never talk to the IRS again. The IRS has a program to eliminate tax debt, and Wall & Associates professionals are trained to maximize its benefits for you. You always speak with a live person with real support and real knowledge. We've helped thousands of taxpayers like you settle their tax debt with the IRS for a fraction of what they owe. We solve tax problems. Call Wall & Associates now, 800-480-5708. We have the professionals who know how to solve tax problems. If you owe money to the IRS, your tax problems are not going away by themselves, and the passage of time will only make matters worse. Act now, before it's too late. Call Wall & Associates right now to speak to a professional tax relief agent. Call 800-480-5708. That's 800-480-5708. Again, 800-480-5708.
Sports Professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard, the serious show that doesn't take itself too seriously. We were talking about the TriCast, the favorite NFL Network Twitter joint venture today, and the $900 million number that everybody is talking about as far as that venture. Jeff Ma, the director of business insights for Twitter, we'll talk about that. Bringing down the house in 21, the sitcoms, the shows that have been on media, he's the guy that they patterned it after. And we can talk about the sale of Twitter. Disney seems to be more interested in Netflix and Apple and Google out of the running. Is Salesforce the suitor? Jeff Ma has some answers.
Rick Horrow with Kevin Lewis. Oh, that's Bringing Down the House.
Yeah.
Right. No, with Ben Campbell. Oh, that's 21. So, obviously, Jeff Ma many times emulated, probably never duplicated. Right. So how do you feel being a movie hero?
It was a fun experience. I don't know if I'm necessarily a movie hero, but certainly having the movie made about the sort of things that we did in Vegas was fun, and it's kind of fun to have your story told on the big screen.
On the theory that not every Reuters high demographic listener understands what I meant by that opening, right. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was, the guy by the name of Ben Mesrick wrote the book Bring Down the House, and it was about the MIT blackjack team, and sort of I was one of the central figures in that book. It's all about how we use math to beat the casinos by counting cards, by taking advantage of the fact that blackjack is a game with a memory, meaning what you see impacts what you're going to see. So if you track the cards as they come out, you can basically figure out what your odds are going to be going forward, and you can bet more when your odds are in your favor and bet less when they're not in your favor. Eventually the book got turned into a movie called 21, which Kevin Spacey was in, and I actually played a small starring role in. And the main central character, Ben Campbell, as you mentioned, was sort of based off of the experiences that I had.
Were you a de facto consultant in addition to an on-screen star?
I did spend some time on the set and helped talk through a few of the scenes early on when the script was being written by a guy by the name of Peter Steinfeld. I actually helped out with it and gave him some ideas and inspiration, I think. Is
Kevin Spacey a better blackjack player now because of the movie?
I don't know. I mean, we had some fun times with the cast, more Kate Bosworth and those types of people. We took them out and taught them how to play.
Interesting concept, obviously. And are you allowed in Vegas casinos?
No, I'm not allowed to play. Well, I'm allowed in the casinos. I'm just not allowed to play blackjack anywhere. Yeah.
Wow, what fun is that? So obviously you morphed into just one more question about the MIT blackjack team. Will blackjack ever be a D1 athletic sport, you think?
No, I mean, it's not like we wore varsity jackets around or anything like that. It was a team only in name.
Well, and only in success, probably pretty much too. Director of Business Insights for Twitter is what I really want to talk about as well. Obviously, the story of Twitter defies traditional analysis and is incredible. So where's it been, and in general, where are you helping it go?
Yeah, so Twitter acquired my company 10Xer about a year ago, and I've been working there for the last year. My role as Director of Business Insights is basically running a group of really smart data scientists to try to understand Twitter and how it's growing and how we can keep it growing or continue solving some of the problems that the company faces using data at the core and helping the company make really good data-driven decisions on the strategy level.
Can you tell historically the culture of the founders obviously permeates, and when you were acquired as well? Is there a pressure to kind of be one step ahead of the Facebook, Snapchat curve? Do you have this mentality that you're kind of the thought leaders in the space?
I think that generally in Silicon Valley, like anyone that works in a situation like Twitter or startups, we're always trying to figure out where things are going, and we're always trying to grow. I mean, a company like Twitter, we need to continue growing both revenue and users. And so we're always trying to understand what are trends and what are things. And Twitter is a phenomenon. I mean, people, with 300 million users that use it, it's a phenomenon.
Where does it go? That's too simple a question. But 5 years from now, for example, where do you envision Twitter to be?
I think Twitter could be a lot of different things. I mean, Twitter is an incredible communication platform. It's an incredible messaging platform. And the idea of a lot of things that are Twitter, the fact that it's very real time, it's also very public. I think it'll continue to be a great place for people to, express their opinions and really be a part of society and the fabric of society.
Is this a zero-sum game relative to free time consumption in that we understand sports, since we're here for conference, but it's reality TV, and sports will be safe. But the whole on-demand world cannibalizes people's time relative to how they could be otherwise spending it. So is the expansion of Twitter a threat to traditional TV or traditional media? Where do you see that playing out?
I mean, I think the media landscape is changing, and I think it's always going to be changing. Like 20 years ago or 30 years ago or whatever, when ESPN started becoming successful, it was because of a new platform. cable, and that was what happened. And so at every level, Yahoo Sports has become incredibly successful because of the internet. And then you have other companies like Bleacher Report, which really has done well because of the internet, because of mobile and whatnot. So there's always going to be new media platforms that are going to change the media landscape.
Twitter, always the home of social, personal content, but there are discussions about Twitter and Snapchat, and Facebook, and others actually bidding for the rights to sports content, sports programming, NFL, for example.
Sure.
Do you see that happening?
I think that like I mentioned, like platforms are all where people consume media is constantly going to change, right? And the idea that you could watch a game on your phone, if you thought about that, 10 years ago, would almost have been unthinkable, like bandwidth issues and whatnot. Certainly, all these social media companies are going to become big players in media at some level.
You're clearly the no-brainer, clearly the smartest guy in this room. But the whole idea that lawyers are up all night billing clients astronomical amounts trying to identify the clarity in rights fees going forward, television, mobile, stadium, the blurring of the distinctions and the use and leaning on mobile phones, there has to be some turbulence relative to rights fees down the road. I could ask you how it all shakes out, but can I give me a top-line view of all that?
Yeah, I think rights fees are certainly going to change and evolve just because there's different ways to consume media. I think that the challenge is obviously, like you said, it's lawyers kind of sitting around and thinking about the best ways, and traditionally the leagues have thought about protecting their assets more than just monetizing them in lots of different directions. So I think the leagues are really thinking more progressively about this now, and I think the idea of being able to watch games in many different platforms or in many different media is what's going to happen. So I think rights fees will become, I think they're going to evolve. I think hopefully maybe there'll be more rev share and that type of stuff versus the actual sort of like really big upfront rights fees that really limit the ability to see games to potentially one platform.
And so at the very least, you would think that the rights fees and rights deals will cut across platforms, in theory.
Yeah, like I said, I'm certainly not an expert in any of this, but I do think that the traditional way that leagues have looked at rights is not going to work going forward. So I think they're going to have to think a little bit differently about how they monetize their content.
The bio says you have consulted or consult for the Blazers and the Niners. Are you calling plays for Kaepernick? What are you doing?
I would tell him to run a lot.
Yeah.
If that were the case.
It doesn't take you to do that. There are a lot of people who think that. So what are you doing for them?
Well, I don't work with either of those teams really anymore. I work with a sort of a major apparel brand still a little bit on with some analytics and that type of thing. But generally, like my days of working with teams, we used to do some work helping them understand some of their in-game strategy and a little bit of work helping them understand who to draft based on college statistics.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, even though you're not actively consulting in that space. The whole draft prediction, we're coming up on it the next 6 weeks, and the latest numbers, each team, I think, employs 37,000 scouts to try to figure out what they're trying to do, and a lot of it is predictive, and half of them hit. Well, what's your insight in that whole draft process? If you were to change it,
it's a very inexact science, and I think that the idea would be to try to get as many picks as you can and hope portfolio theory and hope that some of them pan out. But there's drafting, especially in college football, and with so few picks and things like that, it's difficult. And I think that the problem with a lot of those types of stats is you just don't get very many games. Like these college players don't play that many games. There's just not a huge amount of sample size. There's a huge disparity in level of competition. It's just a very difficult thing to project out.
What I'm going to do is we're going to replay that to the scouting trade show and see how they feel about that. From day one, and this conference for the last 10 years focuses on sports analytics and the whole Moneyball debate and how much is in the mind, how much is in the heart, and how much is in the stats. What's your sense of all of that? There's a role. Is there where is the blend? Where's the mix?
Well, I think it's exactly that. It's a mix, right? And what you're trying to do with this Moneyball or with the stats is you're just trying to put a framework around using data to make decisions. It's not necessarily like you can't measure heart or something like that. You can certainly try. You can try to measure how intelligent a player is. There's definitely ways to measure intangibles. The whole idea of Moneyball or of any of this data type stuff is like, let's find better ways to sort of solve problems or to predict, outcomes. And let's do that by really focusing on getting real data and using that data to make decisions. And so anything that you do, you can create data around it or a framework around it to take what is normally feeling very subjective and make it feel a little bit more objective.
Jeff Ma and Twitter. Twitter went from somebody's idea to one of the richest, most valuable companies on this planet and any other. Interesting perspective, and we'll change perspectives and talk about the LPGA in just a couple of minutes. Rick Horrow, sports professor, Beyond the Scoreboard. See you soon.
And now, today's General Steel building tip. Buy a large lot with a friend or family member that can be split into 2 smaller lots. Some of the most appealing properties may be much larger than what you want or can afford. Yet the seller may not be willing to break up a large parcel. So if you can share the costs with someone else, preferably someone you don't mind having as a neighbor, you may be able to pick up a great building site for a reasonable price. And now, a word from General Steel.
This is an alert. If your business or church is building this year, you're about to pay more than you should. This could mean thousands of dollars more for your office, retail space, church, or warehouse. A General Steel building can save you as much as half the cost and time of similar conventional construction. And we're offering rebates of up to $20,000 to help you build today. Call General Steel for free information that could save you thousands. Call 866-95-STEEL. 866-95-STEEL. That's 866-95-STEEL.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 877-663-7126 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 877-663-7126 to take your call now. Call 877-663-7126. That's 877-663-7126. Again, 877-663-7126.
Rebuild or replace transmission, $3,200. Anti-lock brake system, $1,000. Rebuild or replace engine, $2,400. Truth is, once your manufacturer's warranty runs out, it's all on you. Every last cent. Get protection for covered repairs with a vehicle service contract from Toco Warranty. Unlike other companies, with Toco, there's no down payment, and the monthly payments are really affordable. Not sure how long you're keeping your car? At Toco, you can pay as you go. Keep your hard-earned cash and call Toco Warranty right now at 800-222-2313 to save big money on covered auto repairs. Prices vary by vehicle, but for about the cost of a tank of gas per month, a Toco plan has your back on expensive covered car repairs. Monthly payments are very affordable. Get your free quote now. Call Toco at 800-222-2313. That's 800-222-2313. 800-222-2313. Cancellation fee may apply, subject to eligibility. Not available in Missouri and Washington. Waiting period and deductible apply. Coverage provided and administered by Warrantech Corporation or its affiliates. Not affiliated with any manufacturer or dealership. Visit TocoWarranty.com for complete terms and conditions.
Rick Horrow, sports professor, Beyond the Scoreboard. Mike Wan, the 8th commissioner of the LPGA, and he assumed the leadership role in 2010 with an eye toward enhancing business relationships and exposure for fans. He started in 1987 at Procter & Gamble. He's worked with companies like Wilson Sporting Goods, TaylorMade Golf Company, and Mission Hockey. And now the announcement of the Women in Tech Championship in Indianapolis starting next Labor Day, a unique Guggenheim-sponsored event that talks about tech,
training, sports, philanthropy. Here's Mike Wan. Mike Wan, 8th Commissioner of the LPGA. We've done this before. You've been in a leadership role since 2010, and you've done astronomical things. This Women in Tech Challenge Championship happening in Indy, it is potentially a game changer, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. We're excited about playing a big-time event in Indianapolis. We're excited about a $2 million purse. We're definitely excited about 170 countries watching us. But every once in a while, you get to play for something a little bigger than that. When you see all these young women in the front row and talking about STEM and getting involved in science and tech in a big way, when you see that it's changing their lives, I get to see that a lot for golf around the world. I get to see young women around the world that sort of have this passion for golf, and they're going to pursue it. But when you meet Dan, you meet the former mayor, and you see what they're doing for women in tech, they're changing lives their own way. So for the LPGA to be part of that, not just to be here, not just play golf, not just be back in the Midwest, where quite frankly I'm from, and we do our best stuff, it's exciting to know this event's going to be about a lot more than just golf.
New sponsors, new partners, new financial investors, as it were, are really important for the lifeblood of the LPGA, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, we don't play without our business partners, and we use the term partners. I always say that sponsors is a bad word because sponsors sounds like you bought something from me. But as my wife would say, partners means we're in this together. And that's the way we want to feel. We understand that Guggenheim is in this with us, and we're in it with them. If this doesn't work for their business, if we don't move the needle for their vision of women in tech, we're not playing here in 7, 8, 9 years. And we don't want to be in business with them for 3 years. We want to be in business with them for 30.
Special piece of this, too, is that sports and economic development, especially in a town like Indianapolis, has always been tourism-related. Awareness, mentions, what it means. This is business and economic development as it relates to technology, training, urban workforce. How significant is that?
Yeah, this is solving a problem. This is filling a niche long term, and this is Dan and the mayor understanding that if we don't address this now, we're going to have a hole in the workforce in the not too distant future. Now, when you come to us and you talk about even when you talk about transitional women re-entering the workforce, I got players on tour that are having that discussion. I've got former players on tour that are having that discussion. So when Dan started talking about training to help people re-enter the workforce in a tech environment, I told him, you're not only going to see tour players show up in Indy, you're going to see some of your future prospective clients. They're going to want to go through this same learning. So everything that they said the first time we met struck a chord. And like I said, we're excited to make sure that when we come here, we don't just play a golf tournament, but we send a message.
Well, and again, the important thing, too, is to have a successful multi-year commitment, guaranteed 3 and many more for Indianapolis. But part of the deal also is to create some kind of a national template or national structure relating to women in workforce training and women in tech around the country, maybe, right?
Yeah, I said earlier today, it's neat when you meet somebody who's got a vision bigger than yours. I mean, I think about big-time golf tournaments. I definitely think about helping business partners. But when you meet Dan and he talks about women in tech, Indy is the start. It's not the finish. He views Indy as the lab where he's going to figure this out and he's going to make a difference in this market. He's going to make a difference for young women. And I feel pretty comfortable talking to him. I think you'd agree that his mind is racing to, if I can figure this out, there's other locations, there's other cities, and there's other young women all around the country that we can roll this to. And we both have had a beer or two and said, what if women in tech wasn't a regional thing? What if women in tech wasn't a tournament thing? What if it was across the country? And our goal, I think, between the two of us and certainly between my whole tour, is to bring that vision to life.
Well, and there's certainly an opportunity to do that. Let's talk about the scope of the vision worldwide. Majors won by a variety of women from around the globe. How does the internationalization of the women's tour actually enhance its progress?
Well, if you think about it, it was only maybe 20 years ago when golf, especially women's golf, was made up of golfers from the U.S. and Europe. It was made up of business partners from the U.S. and Europe. As a result, it was televised in U.S. and Europe, and we generally had fans in U.S. and Europe. And so if somebody would have said, you're a stock, what's your upside value? Well, we sort of tapped into our upside value. Now, you jump 20 years later, and we've got players from all over the world. We've got television coverage all over the world. We've got young girls on golf tees with training coaches and programs that they can get into that are happening in virtually every corner of the world. So golf, I've said this many times, especially women's golf, is truly borderless. There's women coming from all over. They're all striving to make it to this tour because when you talk to the best of something in the world. What they want to do is test themselves against the other best. On the LPGA, you got 150 of the best female golfers on the planet teeing it up against each other week in and week out with the whole world watching to find out who's the Rolex world ranking #1 player. And it's really cool for me. Right now, the 5 top players in the world rankings come from 5 different countries.
Interesting dynamic, especially after the Olympics. A lot of pre-Olympic discussion was about the men that didn't come. The women came and had a very successful Olympics from all material respects. How do you build on that?
Well, it's funny. I got asked a lot during Rio, what's the key thing that has to happen here? What's going to be the key impact of these 4 days in Rio? And I've said this many times. The impact of golf in the Olympics happened way before Rio. What happened at Rio almost didn't matter to me because I didn't understand, when people used the term Olympic movement, I didn't understand what they meant. But what I've seen over the last 6 or 7 years is when golf became an Olympic sport, there's countries all over the world that invest in Olympic sports. They invest in school programs and training programs, teachers and workout facilities. And right now, if you're a young woman and you want to enter golf, you're going to enter what a lot of countries consider a podium sport, and they invest in podium sports. So they're growing up with school programs and after-school programs and teachers and fitness regimes, all built to create world-class female golfers. None of that existed before the Olympics. So the Olympic movement was all about the movement in putting golf into the Olympics, and what's happened way before we ever teed it up in Rio, and way before we'll ever tee it up again in 4 years in Japan.
Television and women's golf. Television and women's tennis seems to be on the rise continuously. Do you follow kind of the same metrics and platform? Do you do things differently? What's the future of women's golf on TV?
Well, there's a lot of similarities between tennis and golf, meaning that they both become pretty global. Players come from all over the world. They play all over the world. The major difference between us and the WTA is we've made a real commitment to make America, North America, our home. We play 65% of the time here. Players from all over the world move here. We're based here. So when you talk to a player from Korea or Japan or Singapore, Australia, Taiwan, Thailand, they've generally moved here to America to commit to playing on the LPGA. Now, we will travel all over the world. We'll televise all over the world, but we're a little different in the fact that we're not sort of nomadic. This is where we consider home. This is where we play. That's why adding events like Indianapolis are so key. We've had a huge increase in our schedule over the last 5 or 6 years, but overwhelmingly the biggest increase in that schedule have been North American events.
And part of the TV piece is social media today. We can't even ignore that in any context. The number of followers, apparently 4 or 5 times WTA versus LPGA, that's not as important as what you're doing in the future to deal with social media and using it as a platform to expand.
Yeah, I've had a lot of other commissioners and sport leaders kind of critique me because at the LPGA, we don't really push at LPGA as a Twitter handle. We push players' Twitter handles. So if you see the back of a bib at the Indy Women in Tech tournament, you're not going to see at LPGA. You'll see Paula Creamer's handle. You'll see Lexi Thompson's Twitter handle or Facebook post. We want you to follow them because if you're following them, you're following us. And to be honest, they're a lot more interesting than we are. So our following is all about follow our athletes, learn the kind of lifestyle and a commitment to sport they've made, and at the end of the day, you're following the LPGA. So I don't really pay attention how many people follow the league. I really pay attention how many people follow our athletes.
Do we need the next female breakout superstar on the LPGA Tour to help expand and grow it, or do we already have that?
Well, it probably depends on where you ask. I've always said this many times. Everyone says to me, who's the face of the LPGA? And I always say, well, who's the face of the NFL? See, I have 3 boys, and we grew up all over the country. So if you ask one of my boys, they'd say Tom Brady. If you ask another one of my boys, they'd say Drew Brees. Another one would say Cam Newton. They're all right? Because whoever you follow, if you ask people about the LPGA, they might say Lydia Ko from New Zealand. They might say Lexi Thompson from Florida. They might say Arya Jutanagard from Thailand. So the really cool thing is, no matter where you're growing up, no matter where you follow, we've got superstars from all those areas. And I think a sport's really at its best when there's a large group of athletes leading it. And I think, anytime a sport gets down to there's one player and where he or she doesn't show up, the event is lessened, that becomes problematic for a league. We're not there right now in the LPGA. We've got 20, 30 athletes that represent 10, 15 different countries that are all at the top of the world rankings.
You personally transitioned from a sports series of sports product companies to running a major professional sports league. Skills that are transferable, skills that are different. How's that transition been?
Well, most people and players would probably tell you the transition is still in progress. But I've always said I've got no background or no experience to be the commissioner of anything. I was the least qualified person for the job. The only time I'm comfortable in this job is when I'm sitting across from somebody who's thinking about writing a significant check every year for the next 5 years to sponsor the LPGA. Because in my background growing up, I've sponsored everything. I haven't run leagues. I haven't done TV deals. I haven't figured out pin placements on the 17th hole. But luckily, I have a great team around me that can do that. But what I do know is that when you write a check to a sport, you expect them not just to cash the check, but be committed to your business. So one thing I can tell you, at the LPGA, there is no other more customer-centric group of athletes than us. We focus. We want to make sure that this isn't just a good event for us, but Indy's a great event for Guggenheim. And if it's not a good event for Guggenheim, we won't play anymore. And I've said this many times that I don't see LeBron James finish around and sit in the locker room and talk about the latest sponsor on tour. But you will definitely see our athletes, when you interview them afterwards, talk about Guggenheim. They'll talk about women in tech. They'll talk about the race to the CME Globe. They'll talk about the Rolex World Rankings, because they realize that without them, we're at home playing in a member.
Well, and it's interesting because your comments about not being qualified to be a commissioner are humble and, of course, not true. But when you think about the values and traits and expertise that you need to be fluent as a commissioner in your world, what's most important? Marketing, tech, psychology, economics?
Listening. To be honest with you, what you need to realize is that it isn't about what you're looking for. I always have fans that'll email me and say, how come we don't play in Pittsburgh? How come we don't play in Chicago? And I always say it's because I don't go looking for cities. I go looking for business partners. And when I work with a business partner, I ask them, where can we best move the needle for your business? So when I meet Dan from Guggenheim and he says, this is about Indy and building women in tech in Indy, we're playing in Indy. I didn't go looking for Dan because I wanted to find Indy. I wanted to know how we could move the needle for Guggenheim Insurance. And so, for me, what I've learned in this job more than anything else is if I can understand what's important to my business partner's business, we can figure out how to create a golf tournament to deliver that. If I walk into somebody's office and tell them why they need to be writing a check to golf, no, I haven't met a CEO yet who woke up and drove to work and thought, if I just had a golf tournament, man, everything would be great. And until I meet that person, I have to worry about their business and not mine.
Don't hold your breath meeting that person. You're doing a fantastic job doing this. Finally, what's it like being a guy running a women's organization?
Well, it is funny. I was in a meeting the other day, and I was it was a presentation I was giving to college, and a person raised their hand and they said, what's the most strange thing about being the LPGA commissioner? I said, in this room right now, there's 60% men and 40% women. I haven't been around this many men in a room in 7 years. And when we break for a bathroom break, I'll wait in line. I haven't waited in line to go to a bathroom in 7 years. So it's very different. But at the end of the day, world-class superstar athletes are world-class superstar athletes. They're focused, they're driven, they're honest, which I love. I mean, when you talk to an athlete, and she either shot 64 today or 74, and there's no median ground, you don't explain that away. So when you're talking to one of my athletes, and I'm talking to people from my sport, I love the fact that it's just straight. It's out there, you tell it like it is, and we can all deal with the truth. So I find sometimes in business, there's ways around the facts. It doesn't happen in sports, and it's one of the best part about my job.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There you have it. Mike Wan transitioning from bathroom habits to being a world-class commissioner in about 30 seconds. I really appreciate it.
Mike Wan, one of the most dynamic commissioners you'll ever see, and in the forefront of women tech golf sports. Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard, Bust, Boom, and Hope, coming up in just a couple of minutes.
We all know healthcare has changed drastically. It's quite the puzzle to sort through your options and find a health insurance plan that's affordable and maximizes your benefits. And you're now required by law to have health insurance, or you may pay a tax penalty. So let the Health Markets Insurance Agency help you. They offer plans from over 120 different companies and can even help you obtain government subsidies. Let them do all the research for you and show you how affordable health insurance can be, a service that's at no extra cost to you. Call now and learn your options to find affordable health insurance. 800-614-1242. 800-614-1242. 800-614-1242. 800-614-1242. Health Markets Insurance Agency is a DBA or assumed name of Insphere Insurance Solutions, Inc., which is a licensed insurance agency in all 50 states and D.C. Not all agents are licensed to sell all products. Service availability varies by state.
Attention, if you've had hip replacement surgery and suffered any complications, you need to listen to this important legal alert. Major manufacturers have made billions of dollars available to award legal claims for defective hip implants. Thousands of these defective hip implants have been recalled by various manufacturers. If you've had hip surgery and suffered complications, you may be entitled to receive significant compensation to help you deal with your complications. You may be eligible to receive money to help with medical expenses, lost wages, and pain and suffering. Protect yourself by hiring an experienced trial attorney. Our partner law firms are experts in hip replacement surgery lawsuits. Find out now if you're eligible to receive any of the $2.5 billion hip settlement fund. Call now for free information. 800-296-1360. 800-296-1360. 800-296-1360. That's 800-296-1360.
Fanatics.com is the place to get your favorite licensed college football fan gear. It's also the place to win the hottest bowl tickets for the season. Pull out your phone and Shazam this ad now for your chance to win an all-inclusive bowl game experience for two. Plus $250 to deck yourself out in officially licensed gear from Fanatics. Inside, you'll also find Fanatics merchandise, apps, and more. If you want to be on the sidelines of the biggest bowl games, Shazam now. If you're a sports fan and you love your team, you gotta check out Fanatics.com. Fanatics is the best place for fan gear from the most trusted brands. Authentic fan gear from the NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, and NCAA college football and basketball. Jerseys, hoodies, t-shirts, hats, collectibles, and more. It's the world's largest collection of official fan gear from all the leagues, teams, and players you love. Everything officially licensed. Go to Fanatics.com for gear and show love for your teams this season. Fanatics. Love never loses.
Sports Professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard. Interesting issues today. National Football League and television and value. And women's golf have some things in common. Corporate sponsorships, commitment, sophistication, creativity. All talking about that today, with whether it's Mike Wan, Jeff Ma, or otherwise. Let's talk about the good, the bad, and the hopeful in the economy. Bust, boom, and hope. First, bust. With Maria Sharapova's 2-year drug ban getting reduced to just 15 months, the tennis star admitted it was an honest mistake, according to an interview she did on Today. The Court of Arbitration found no deliberate attempt to dope, no deliberate attempt to cover up doping, so they decided to reduce the suspension by 9 months. Quote, I've been respected as an athlete ever since I came on tour. I show a lot of spirit out on the court, and I think a lot of players and a lot of fans really respect that. So let's hope bust is not really a bust. Boom. The NBA, now the official motor oil, motor fuel, and lubricant search is over. Sports Business Journal says ExxonMobil signed a multi-year sponsorship, but ExxonMobil expected to cut deals with a number of NBA teams, and the sponsorship signifies ExxonMobil's diversification of its sports portfolio, historically been strongly linked to motorsports. The NBA not had a motor oil sponsor in more than 15 years. Now they have one. And finally, hope. Yeah, Chicago Cubs getting ready for the playoffs and their new plaza outside Wrigley Field. It has a new name, the Park at Wrigley Field. WME-IMG signed a long-term deal with Hickory Street Capital to obtain the naming rights for the plaza, set to officially open next summer. The naming rights package does not include the ballpark, but covers the 6 new-story office tower next to the park, the new headquarters, and retail. Though, because the stadium rights area is technically outside the park, all financial proceeds from the deal not subject to the MLB revenue-sharing rules. Interesting, and the Cubs obviously very important to baseball and everybody else. That's about it for today. We'd like to thank Jeff Ma with Twitter, talking about all of their stuff, and Mike Wan, the LPGA Indy Women in Tech Championship. Rick Horrow, Sports Professor. Next week, we're deeper into the playoffs and everything else, so why don't you join me when we go Beyond the Scoreboard.